everyone. Welcome to Buzzing About Romance Happy Hour. I am Becky, your host for the evening, and I am super, super excited that I'm going to get to spend the next while chatting with one of our community favorites, Miss Delta James. Hi, Delta.
Hi guys,
Uh,
good to be here.
Long time no chat. I think it's been about a year since we got to sit down and
I
hang
think
out.
so.
Yeah.
I think so.
I am super excited to kind of catch up with you and to see all the things that you have going on. I think I saw somewhere, did you publish your 100th book? Are you getting ready to publish your 100th
We're
book?
getting ready to publish our 100th book. The 100th book will be on May 19th. It's going to be a duet and it's going to follow the same couple through both books and romantic suspense, and it's called To Love a Thief.
Okay.
So I'm really excited about
Exciting. Um, I'm so happy for you.
it. Mind blowing.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Mind blowing. It's a little mind blowing when I think, oh my God, we're about to, hit the 100th book. And so we realized we were going to do that this year. And so we being Renee and I and Chris, my little team, just started working towards how are we going to celebrate that? What was that going to look like? And we decided to count down. So every day I post what book, the next book that I did. And so people can see what's gone on. And it's really been exciting and fun and very humbling that people actually like my books well enough that I can write 100 books and they keep buying. So that's really nice.
When did you start writing?
I started writing in late 2017, and my first book came out in 2018.
Okay.
I wrote 6 books under one pen name that I used to cringe about because they were good stories, but badly written and worse edited. I got the rights back to those and am now in the process of rewriting, revising, re-editing, recovering, and releasing them. I do not include those in the 100 books. The 100 books has always been Delta James, and the first one of those was released in July of 2018.
So exciting. It's so exciting.
And
Um,
in April of 2019, I went from being published by a niche publisher to being independent, or being published and having a day job to being able to quit my day job and go to work full time as a writer, which was unbelievable and so enjoyable.
so amazing. I like it's like I mean we've only been friends for what? Like since 2020 I think we've been friends.
Yeah,
Um I'm so proud of you. Like I'm so
you
excited and so proud of you and I only had a very small part in your little journey. So
did. I mean, I enjoy being able to reach out and talk to readers and to have readers see me. We do a live reading every month in the pack, and that's supposed to be just a live reading. And when we first came up with the idea, my PA thought it would last for about a half an hour and a half, 2 hours. As long as people want to stay online and chat, I'm there.
yeah.
It's not a problem for me. To me, it's a perk of my job. I know for some authors, it's like they hate it because they're really introverted. In case you missed it, I'm not. Um, I know, big surprise, right? But I really enjoy that one-on-one. When I go to conferences, I don't. I spend very little time up in my room. I'm down and I post like, "Oh, I'm going to be over here, and I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be," and people come and talk, and I just enjoy it. I have a really good time.
And it was you said to me in one of our very first interviews that you don't consider your readers as fans. They're your
Hmm.
readers, they're your friends, they're your community. And
Hmm.
honestly, those words really stuck with me. And I have taken that back into our own community. And someone will be like, "Oh, you have fans." I'm like, "No, no, no, no. I have friends and I have a community. These are our
Hmm.
listeners. But at the end of the
Hmm.
day, these are my people."
Exactly.
And it was you who made me see that difference that you can create this group that builds people up and supports
Hmm.
everyone while sharing out your craft and your art and who you are. And I love
Hmm.
that. I love that you do that.
Well, it's something I felt from the very beginning, and you're a member of Delta's Wayward Pack, so you know. I don't just put stuff about books up there. Memes or sayings I come across or something that happens, I share with people. A lot of times I share a lot of things that they speak to me and I think, oh, that's really cool. And I just copy them into the pack. And people really like that. They enjoy that. We could just share that way. For me, when somebody, I don't care if it's a podcaster or an author or an actor or whoever, they call themselves like the artist or whatever. And then the fan, it sets up this power differential I'm really uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
So I'm just a writer, and the people who read my books are my readers, and it's more of a symbiotic relationship. And a lot of times readers have far more influence on what I'm going to write than they might think. People will write and say, what happened to this? What about this? What about that? I just had a book come out called Reckless Mate, and it was about two side characters in a series. I never planned to write them a novel, but I had people just, no, we want Kieran Scott's story. And it's like, okay, I guess we're doing Kieran Scott's story. So then I thought, well, how am I going to do this? Because I really never planned this. And then the story I thought they had, which was going to be kind of this sweet, sort of cute thing, turned into this whole other thing on me. And I'm often astounded by what I'm writing. I'm sort of like, and I'll look at my I'll be looking at my laptop and I'll go, well, that's interesting. I never expected that. And it's true. I mean, I end up going places with characters thinking, well, okay, that wasn't really what I expected, but okay, what the hell? And I just run with it. I let the characters tell their story, and I think that that's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun for me. It's a lot of fun for readers
I agree.
because what they say is, I didn't see that coming. It's like, yeah, me neither.
Me neither.
But the funny part for me was when I did Ghost Cat Canyon, I was starting the finale book. And all through the series, it's who killed Cyrus, the father. And you don't know. And it's who killed him, who killed him. And started the fourth book, and my PA Renee said to me, have you figured out who the killer is yet? And I went, not a clue, not a clue. And I truly didn't know. And Chris, who's my best friend, and we share a house, and she takes care of everything for me, and just allows me to write. Um, she and now she's doing more more on the reader, and she's doing more alpha reading for me, and she takes care of all the audiobooks for me and all that kind of nonsense. But she came into the office, the workroom one morning, and she looked at me and she goes, I know who killed Cyrus. I'm not sure you're going to like it, but I know who killed Cyrus. And I said, who? And she told me, and I'm not going to say in case people haven't read the series. But when she did, the minute it came out of her mouth, I was like, oh my God, that is who killed it. And when you go back through the books, it looks like I planned that all along. It's interwoven. It's like, oh, I guess somewhere along the line I did know that.
That's what
But I
Leah
sure
calls a happy
what I
accident. A happy
yes,
accident.
I promise you it was not planned from the get-go. It was just,
So I
you
didn't
know,
realize this, and Susie is asking in the chat, you recovered the Tangle Vines books?
I did.
Why?
Um,
I loved those.
I did too. I really, really did. But a lot of our market research showed that, you know, half naked men sold better. So
Okay,
I did.
well,
But I am yeah,
okay.
I I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for an object cover. I love them. And when I did my duet, it is an object cover. I did not do naked men chest. But I just really love them because I think you can do so much more with them. But honestly, with one series that was an object cover, we had it an object cover and we changed it. We decided to run a test to see what happened. And we sold more books in 3 days than we sold in the 30 days before that.
Okay.
That's a pretty good indicator of what people want. And as I often remind myself and remind other authors when they're bemoaning this fact, covers aren't for the author.
They're
They're
not.
not. They're for the readers. That's who you make covers for. Not for me, for my readers. And if that's what they want, it's not like I don't mind seeing gorgeous men half naked, but
Yeah.
that's who they're for. So, if that's what they want, that's what I'm gonna give them. I'm not gonna stand up and get all hoity toity like some people do. It's like,
Well,
watch people.
and as someone who has, I've been reading romance since the 90s, I
Hmm.
collect the classic watercolor clinch covers. You know,
Hmm.
I love the artistic covers. I've lived through the 90s of the object cover, the muted cover, and I love a good man chest. I'm not ashamed to say, like, if he's almost naked, I'm okay. Thank
I'm okay
you.
with it. Me too. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm very lucky. I work with the same cover artist literally exclusively since I left the publisher and went indie. I've had the same cover artist all along. And she's Dar Albert up in Bellingham, Washington, of Wicked Smart Designs. It's just amazing, and she gets me. And I rarely even have to send something back once to 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 do it. Usually, she's just sends it, and I go, "Oh, that's perfect," and we go on with our lives. She understands who I am, what my readers want, what I want, and she's just very in touch with that, and it makes it very easy for me.
Yeah.
I'm all
Um,
about easy.
Melody says hi. Melody Dex. She's on here hanging
Hi,
out with
Melanie.
us. So I didn't give our instructions, but they haven't really changed. You can ask all the questions in the chat. We'll do our best to answer them as we go on. In the description of the video are all the places to connect with Delta. If you follow, like, and subscribe at the end of the night, one lucky person is going to get some swag from Buzzing About Romance. Um, the husband has been creative lately. Look what he made, like handmade, to like hold your paperbacks.
Oh, wow.
Aren't those like they sit in between the pages and your thumb goes in to hold your paperbacks? Anyway, so I've got some cool stuff like that to share out to someone who hangs around with us for the evening. Um, okay, Delta, tell us. We've talked 100 books. Like
Uh-huh.
now, you are writing a couple of different series right now, but the one that I was most intrigued with is you are doing a shifter horse.
A shifter what?
Wait, the cowboy? Are they cowboys? Are they horses? Because I just picked
No,
up book one
uh-uh.
today.
Is it Ghost Cat Canyon?
No, not Ghost Cat. The one that I used for our. Hold on. See,
Oh, those were the Willa Bradley books. Those are the books I got my rights back on and revised and recovered them. Yes, those are all dark covers, and I when she sent them to me, all I had her do was swap out one for another because I thought one cover fit the story better than the one
stealing
she
her
proposed for it.
heart. Stealing her
Uh-huh.
heart. Okay,
It originally was Harvest Moonride. No, Stealing Our Heart is that it? Yeah, no, it is. That's Harvest Moon, right? So, yeah, I revisited those. I revised them. I rewrote parts. I took a lot of stuff in, added new stuff, and then sent it to my exclusive editor, and she worked her magic on it, and then we released it. So, yeah, those covers I think are just knocked them out of the ballpark. But then I always think that about Dar. I mean, I always whatever she does, I'm just so blown away by.
well, we're getting ready to
And
do a cowboys episode, and I needed
oh, that will be
sexy,
fun.
sexy cowboys. And I'm like, oh, look, Delta wrote cowboys. Those will be sexy. I will read
I
those.
have written several cowboys. I wrote that series. I wrote West Canyon actually is set in the modern West. And also I wrote two others when I was with Stormy Night, Taming His Cowgirl and Tamed on the Ranch.
Well, and
And
I've read the Wild Mustang Security series too.
yes.
I read those too. Um, because I'm going to tell you, as much as everyone's like, ooh, I like a cowboy romance, the majority of the cowboy romance that I have read has been in category. And
Hmm.
it's not just contemporary romance or even PNR or romantic suspense. It's either historical or it's category romances. And I would like to know where people are reading these really great cowboy romances because outside of you and Stacey Kennedy, I'm kind of lost.
Well, I think one of the reasons people like my cowboys is because they feel real. And they
Yeah.
feel real because I've grown up riding horses and been around cowboys most of my life, although my parents were city slickers. But the guy who first taught me to ride a horse was John Wayne's stunt double. So, yeah, so that was really cool.
That is really
Um,
cool.
And, so I've been around horses. It's like I hear from other horsemen, especially, oh, thank God, your horses at least are real and you don't say stupid things in your books. And it's like, no, I don't, because that annoys me. I really believe as an author, something you owe your readers um, is if you don't do it yourself and haven't experienced it, then you better research the hell out of it
Yeah.
because you don't want to have people thinking this, that, or the next thing. So I can get lost down a rabbit hole researching minutia for something that probably doesn't mean anything to anybody, but I want to make sure it's right. You know, I've had a couple of things on sailboats, and people are like, "Wow, have you sailed a lot?" It's like I had one great sailing adventure, but I have a really good friend I've known since I was 18, who does sail around the world. So I will always, when I have something on a boat or with the weather on a boat, I will send it to Kay and say, "Does this read? Is this okay? Does this read all right?"
Yeah.
Same thing with Alaska. I've been up to Alaska a couple of times. I haven't spent tons of time up there. I have several Alaska readers. I send things to them and get their feedback on it. I think as a writers, we owe that to our readers. Especially for me, because I write a lot of PNR. I think if I'm going to ask you to take that leap and believe in a wolf shifter or a lion shifter or this, that, or the next thing, I better have the rest of it grounded in reality.
Yeah.
And so I a lot of times use actual hotels or restaurants or places that people can go and sit in the booth and they can order what the characters ordered and all that kind of stuff. I try to make it as hands-on as I can for people.
You yeah, we've talked about that before, the hotel that you used in London. Like you called
Mhm.
them and were like, can you walk me through this?
I emailed them. I know the marketing director now. I emailed her and I said, I remembered there's that you have an indoor swimming pool. I cannot remember what floor it's on. She goes, "It's their floor." So I mean, it's really been a lot of fun, and I pull stuff off the Savoy Girls menu, and I've had people go, "I really want to go to the Savoy." They write me, "I'm going to go to the Savoy," and I'm like, "Okay, you need to know it's really expensive. The food's fabulous, but it is one of Gordon Ramsay's restaurants, and it's expensive as hell." But the American Bar, which is in the Savoy, is reasonably priced. It's one of the oldest actual hotel bars in all of Great Britain, so it's kind of cool to go in there.
Yeah. Jenny is asking, you've written 100 books, or yeah, 100 books in 5 years. How
Mhm.
far ahead do you write?
Usually I'm just a book ahead. I'm really usually right up to the deadline, getting
Okay.
them done. Mainly because we moved and then in January, both Chris and I got really sick. Couldn't seem to get over it, kind of cold kind of thing. And there were several days I literally could not write, which is uh not normal for me at
Yeah.
all. And so I'm usually about a book or a book and a half ahead.
Okay.
So, but it lets things be much more spontaneous and contemporaneous for me, you know. I don't have these long lead times between my novels. I sometimes think maybe someday that'll happen, but probably not. Um, but I just, the way I write is more seat of my pants, how I'm feeling things. I have gone to actually having a schedule. So I know when things are coming out. Used to sort of be, I just wrote whatever I wanted. And my PA said, "You can't do that. It's too hard to market that way. I need us to be a little more organized than that." So Renee and I sat down and created a schedule, and we start with the release date. And then the day I need to get it to Renee for her to get it loaded on Amazon, how long it's going to take me to edit, and then I go to my editor and I say to Lori, "Okay, I need it back on this date. When do you need it by?" And she says this. And she goes through and fills it out. The first time we did that with Renee, it was like a 4.5 hour conversation trying to get the first schedule put together. Now we meet because I'm in Florida and so is she, and so we get together. Um, we meet and it's a couple hours every time we revise the schedule, but it's part of that for me and for writing, not writing way out ahead is Renee can keep her thumb on the pulse of what people are reading, what the market trends are. And so it makes writing that or shifting to that, no pun intended, much easier and quicker. It's much more immediate for me. I know people who go, well, I've written these whole books and they're going to be out there through, 2025. And I'm thinking, yeah, but is that what people want to read in 2025? We don't know that. And the market shifts.
It
And
does.
and
It does.
I think
Okay.
that's the key to my success.
So Susie's asking what series you have going right now. So based upon what I can figure out, because you are like your own little cycle of chaos, which I adore and I love. Um, we have Club Southside,
Hmm.
and book 2 in that series will hit shelves in April.
Hmm.
So, what is Club Southside? Give us a little bit of what that
It
series is.
one of my most popular series is The Mercenary Masters, set in London at a fictitious BDSM club, lifestyle club called Baker Street. I set it up that it was actually owned by a woman who used it to finance her being able to go in and save women in desperate situations. And then she meets this guy and all this. But they're based out of Baker Street. And I decided I wanted to do another series, but I really didn't want to do it in Baker Street. So I decided Baker Street and Cerberus, which is the securities firm, would open up a new club in Chicago, and that is Club Southside. And so it is Cerberus and Club Southside. So new alphas, and I'm sure the people from Baker Street will come and go. But it's set up. It's a new club, and they've had their first thing. They've had their first case and running with that. And so the second book comes out. So I do have Club Southside going.
Okay, and then next we have the Syndicate Masters
Hmm.
Midwest. This is a cat
Hmm.
shifter.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
They're always cat shifters, different kinds of cat shifters.
These look like lions.
Well, one of them is the one I'm working on right now is a lion. There's also I can't remember. I think the snow leopard. No, the snow leopard was first.
A Kiss of
And
Luck looks like it's a leopard, like a bang,
yeah,
yeah, like a
yes.
leopard. Goodness. Okay, so what is the Syndicate Masters?
Syndicate Master started with a book that was never going to be part of a series. I made a joke with Renee and Chris that I ought to write because Mafia was really popular. I don't write a Mafia book, but I write PNR, so I'll make him a shifter. And until recently, it was the most popular book I'd ever written. People just love it. It's called The Bargain, and it's a lot of fun. And so then Renee said, "Well, you know, let's make it a series." So I turned it into a series, and that was the first one. And then the next one was Syndicate Masters Northern Lights, which was up in Denmark and Norway and Sweden. And then Syndicate Masters Cosa Nostra, which was down in Italy and Sicily. Then I moved them over to the Eastern Seaboard, and now we're doing the Midwest Mafia. And they
Okay.
will end up in New Orleans.
Okay. And then we're also have going on right now Otter Cove Shifters Book 1 comes out in
Hmm.
April, and this is
Uh-huh.
Bear Shifters.
Well, actually, it is kind of a spinoff of the Mystic River Shifters, which is still going on. And they're two small towns up in Alaska that are made up solely of shifters. There's bears, there's mountain lions, there's lynxes, there's foxes, there's wolves, there's all that kind of stuff up there. And but they live in a community that is all shifters. Basically it's a small town shifter romance, is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get the small
Look
town
at where
vibes.
Becky's going small town shifter. Okay.
Nope, it makes perfect sense in the Delta James world. Like it
Oh,
is completely perfect and on
it's fun.
brand.
It's really fun. Um, the book that kicked the bargain out of the most popular book I've ever written was the first book in the Mystic River series, which was Defiant Mate, and
Okay.
is a wolf shifter, and it's just really cool. And the he meets the heroine. Um, if walks in on her husband having an affair and ends up leaving him, and she moves from San Francisco to Alaska, and it's just great fun.
So the duet that's going to be book 100 and book
Hmm.
101 is
Hmm.
that To Love a Thief?
Uh-huh. To Love a Thief is the first of the duet. It's called the Relentless Pursuit series. Um, and it is not paranormal. It is strictly romantic suspense. She's a jewel thief on a mission, and he's trying to stop her. And that's how they meet and come together and all that good stuff.
I
Oh,
love a jewel heist. I love a jewel heist.
yeah, she's going to be good. Doing lots of research on security systems and all that kind of stuff. So it's been a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to do.
Mm, I cannot wait. That Leah, I hope Leah's taking notes when she comes back and watches. Susie wants to know, will you ever do a reverse harem? You have
Well,
menages though, right?
I have one menage. I was invited. I was honored to be invited by Vanessa Vale to write in her menage series, and so I did. Um, I've actually it's never been something I wanted to do menage, although I think menage may show up sometime this year. My editor is also an author, and she wants to write a paranormal romance with me, and she wants to write a reverse harem paranormal romance because that's her specialty is reverse harem.
I think
So
you could write an Omegaverse novel like nobody's business,
I'm gonna try. Those are things that are fun. It's how to make sure they fit in my brand.
right?
And and people say, well, why is that important? Well, because people need to know what to expect from you. I mean, if you go to read a Delta James book and you're expecting a sweet, clean romance, you're in for a nasty shock. So
Yeah.
so in fact, my editor said to me, "You do know you're writing all the sex scenes because you write them better than I do. So you're writing them all." It's like, okay,
When I pick up a
but
Delta James book, I know that I am going to get concise stories with great characters, sexiness, great intimacy, and some big swoony alpha moments.
thank you.
That's what I
I try.
that's what I get when I pick
I
up a Delta James.
I want to write books that entertain people. I know a person, she's a lovely person, but she talks about wanting to write literary novels and that what she's writing right now is trash. And it's like, no, it's not. And who's to say what's literary and what's going to remain? I mean, D.H. Lawrence wrote a lot of really smutty stuff,
Yeah.
and it's considered great literature. So who knows? But my thing is, I don't want to write the great American novel because I don't want to read it. I read to be entertained. I read to escape from whatever's going on in my life that I don't want to deal with. That's why I entertain. That's what I write. I want to take people on an adventure. I want them to have fun and to go, oh God, I love that guy. I really love it when they start out hating me. And I love it when people start to read one of my books and they'll send me private messages and they're like, why did you write this guy? He's such a jerk. They go on and on and on. It's like, where are you in the book? Oh yeah, give it another chapter. You'll be fine. And then they come back. Oh my God, I love him. It's like, yes, I know.
Yes, you'll get there. I
Okay,
think
just give it a little bit.
I think that I don't want to read the great American novel either. Like I did
Yeah.
my time in school, I've done my classic literature. I don't want that. I am not a
Mm-mm.
TV watcher. There are some shows I will watch, but I'm not huge in movies. I'm not huge in TV. My escape is the words, the story.
Mm-hmm.
I want to experience things and go places that maybe aren't possible in my real
Mm-hmm.
life. And I love love. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
love the feeling of meeting that person that you connect with. And I like having a girl gang, a supportive female community that
Mm-hmm.
builds up the heroine. Like, I love all of that. And that's what I want to read. And I get really frustrated. We actually just had this conversation today in our Discord about the word smut and that, people are trying to claim back that word, and I don't like it. I don't like that word because if you hear me say to somebody, like overhear a conversation, and I say to somebody, they're like, "Hey, what are you reading?" and I say smut, the person that hear that is going to assume that I am reading something trashy. It also
Yeah.
and that's not true. These are amazing stories written by uber talented human
Mhm.
beings.
I agree.
And if we continue to use words that degrade what we're reading, that gives powers to others to say what we're reading is trash. It's not. They're beautiful
I,
stories that have so much to give to the world.
I was in a group of writers, and there's probably 35 members of this group, chapter of Romance Writers of America. Of the 35, 40 members that were active, three of us had been published. The other two had each written one book that had been published. At that point, I'd written probably 7 or 8 books. All had been bestsellers in their genre. And this one woman who had been writing the same book for 3 years, had never let anyone see it. She wasn't done with it yet. She went on and on about it, and she sort of got very, hoity-toity with me and looked down her nose at me and said, "Why do you write that smut?" And I said, "Because it sells." And that sort of stopped her in her tracks. And I said, and it sells because people like it, they enjoy it.
Yeah,
And it's just, and if she doesn't want to write steamy novels, that's fine. I have two really close friends, really close. One of them is I've known for over 40 years. We're very, very close. She is never, ever, ever going to read one of my books. It's just not her thing. That's okay. Doesn't make her a bad person. I don't dislike her because of that, you know. And she said to me once, "I just feel like I should because we're such good friends." I said, "No, Anne, that's not what you want to read. It's not what you like. So no, you don't want to read it." But where my sister, when I told my sister what I was writing, she just literally disowned me. Just, "I'm not speaking to you. Our parents would be so ashamed. You're a horrible person," on and on and on. Um, Anne, who knew my parents, when I told Anne, the first words out of her mouth were, "Your parents would be you're so proud of you." And I
yeah.
went, "Yeah, they would." She goes, "No, seriously." And I said, "Well, my sister doesn't believe that." And Anne's comment was, "Well, your sister's full of shit." You know, but I mean, I think people should read what they want to read, what they enjoy reading. Um, and I get in a lot of trouble with authors for saying this. If you're reading a book and you don't like it, don't finish it.
Right.
I personally don't have time to read things I don't like. Now
Same.
I won't return a book that I've bought, but if I'm in KU and I'm reading a book I don't like, I'll DNF it and send it back.
Yeah.
And I'll do it within the first chapter or two. It's like, if you can't engage me, I don't have time.
Yeah. Well, and this is a hill I am willing to die on. There is value in DNFing and saying why you DNF'd it, because why
Mhm.
you DNF'd it might be a selling point for
Uh-huh.
me. And
Hmm.
also, it also is a flag because so sometimes, we get a book as a reader and we're struggling with it. Like I
Hmm.
have read some very popular books that are categorized as romance, and I'm just like, what the fuck am I reading? This is not romance. Like, nobody said the word penis. Nobody's pulled out a condom in like 90% of this book. Like, what am I reading? And I go to reviews to see, like, am I reading the same book that all these people said was super steamy and off the charts chemistry? And I like go and I look, and there are no low ratings or no reviews that talk about this. And I'm like, if you are a reader, you are inherently a member of the reading community.
Hmm.
So be a good community member and tell people when something doesn't work for you. Or if you love something because it was amazing, off the charts chemistry with great creativity and, super sexy, spicy scenes,
Hmm.
tell me. Tell me these things. I need to know.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think people, I'm not crazy about Amazon's new thing that you just leave stars. Um, I think it would be nice, but on the other hand, at least it gives people something to go by. A problem I have, and is that some authors, and it's because they got hurt by a bad review, a one-star review, will take it and make it into an ad. And it feels to me like they're making fun of that reviewer, and I have a problem with that.
Um,
I
I have a big problem with that because,
oh,
you know,
good.
you and I are friends, and if I read your books and
Uh-huh.
I review it, I'm not, I will tell you personally
Mm-hmm.
what I thought of your books. Like, if you
Uh-huh.
said, "Hey, Becky, did you read this? What'd you think?" I'll say, "Hey, Delta, I really liked this," or, "And this wasn't really a
It's good
series
for
for
me.
me. I'm going to try this one." I'm going to be honest with you because we all know how
Mhm.
Becky is. She is honest to a fault. Um, but reviews aren't for your authors. And I really actually, like, especially when I think it was like a year ago, there was a trend on TikTok where authors were reading 1-star reviews and, like, you know, kind of like the bad tweets, celebrity bad tweets or stuff.
Uh-huh.
And they were reading the 1-star reviews. And immediately those authors went on my no thank you list. And they went there because, and again, Hill, I will die on. Reviews are for readers, they are not for authors. I understand that you need to look at them for purposes of publicity and how it's feeding into your, you know,
For me, I do read all my reviews, good and bad. Sometimes bad reviews are just mean and they don't tell you anything. And again, they read it, they bought the book, they're entitled to their opinion. But if somebody says in a review, well, this I didn't like it because of this, you can bet your little booty I'm going to go back and look at what they said and go, hmm, she might have a point there. Maybe I'll work on that. And I've done that on a couple of things because somebody took the time to say, this didn't work for me. And I've gone back and gone, ooh, yeah, I can see where she thought that. Or I can see where maybe next time I should explain that better. So I actually like them. But what I don't like, it just felt very mean girl to me
yep, I
that
agree.
that they were trying it felt to me, and maybe they weren't trying to make the reviewer feel bad or make fun of the reviewer. And I don't think that's necessary. And and honestly, getting into a fight with an author in a word fight is kind of stupid. And so,
Yes.
but what it does is I mean, we're supposed to be better than that as authors. We're supposed to have a better command of the vocabulary. And I just thought it just felt mean. And I got trashed by a couple of others when I said to them privately, I didn't say it. Well, you just don't understand. It's like, well, I do, and we just disagree about that.
I
I don't think we need that in this world.
we often have conversations in our community because there are several of us that were are artists, like, you know, paint, drawing. Obviously an
Mhm.
author never had a critique day in college where you put your painting or your sculpture in the middle of class and you get critiqued by not just your professor and not just the, you know, teaching assistant, but the entire class.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's like somebody asked me like, well, what if you have a listener that doesn't like what you're doing? And I said, I've had some that joined our Patreon, were in it for like 10 days and said, nope, not my thing, these are not my people, I want a refund. And that's why we're always like, we're not everyone's cup of tea. Like, we know that.
Mhm.
um
That's me. Yeah.
but I am perfectly okay if somebody is like, yeah, you people are wacky, you're not my deal. That's fine. Because that's way nicer than the professor I had that told me that I painted like a kindergartner. So,
Ugh, yeah.
yeah. So, like,
The problem with some writers that I see is they can't take a critique at all. They say they want an editor, but they really don't. If the editor wants to change a comma, they literally have a meltdown. I was talking with a group of author friends and we were talking about the editing process. And one of them said, God, how do you get through it so fast? And I said, well, you go through, when an editor does your document, they redline everything that comes through is redline. So you can see everything they changed, where they put in a comma, where they took one out, whatever. You can see that. And then there's a space on the other side, on the side of the document, where they make more in-depth comments. You need to write this better, or this was confusing to me, or what have you. So when I open up the document and when I get it from Lori, I hit I go to the thing on Word and it says accept all changes. And I punch that and I save the document. And then I start working on what's over here. Now I'm talking with four other authors, and they all literally went, you just accept them all. You don't go through and look at each one. I'm like, no, because Lori's supposed to know what she's doing, and she does. But besides which, after I make all the corrections and do all the editing, it then goes to my proofreader, who goes and does, and that's a different person who goes and reads it and does the same thing. But before it ever goes out there, it comes back to me. I make all the changes from the proofreader. I give a copy to Chris, a clean copy to Chris. I put and bring it up. We turn on words read aloud, and we read the entire book. So if anything was changed that I don't like, I can change it back. But that was the first time I was like, you people go through every single change and approve it. They're like, of course. And I'm like, God, you people have way more time on your hands than I do. Because,
I've
but I
worked
mean,
with those authors. I have worked with those authors, Delta, that are like, why did you remove my comma? I'm like, because you used 287 of them. I had a book that I was copy editing. It was a Friends to Lovers, but it was kind of this like angsty, like, I love her, but I can't. And it was on both
Mhm.
sides. The word but prepare the word but appeared 657 times in this book. And I was like, oh my God. So I
Now,
threw it highlighted every but. I'm like, get these out of here.
well, with Lori, once I got to working with Lori and we had a lot of success together, I said to her, "Is it easier for you to say you should remove this but and do this, did, or you should rephrase this sentence this way, or is it easier just to do it?" And she said, "Well, it's easier just to do it." And I said, "Then do it." And she said, "What?" And I said, "Just do it. If I again, I have a final read through. If I don't like it, I can fix it then. And if it's easier for you, then do it that way." And again, I have author friends who just have, I mean, they look like they're having a stroke because, oh my God, you know, I employ Lori because I know she's a good editor. She understands who I am, and I really recommend to any author out there, find an editor you can work with and stay with them. I've had other people say, "No, I like to move around. I don't want all my eggs in one basket." Okay, I can understand that to a certain degree, but no, I want an editor that I trust, who knows my voice, who knows what I'm doing, who knows my plans for the future. I mean, Lori has been in on where I'm going in this arc of being a and honing my craft and stuff. And so there's stuff she does with me she doesn't do with other people. And her comment to me once was she said, "The best thing about you is you're teachable. I don't have to tell you the same thing over and over and over again. You learn and you pick it up and you do it." And I can even see from when she started editing my books to the latest books, my writing has improved, which is what I want. I want to give the best, possibly, possibly the best crafted book to my readers that I possibly can.
Yeah.
We ran a survey on the pack one time. Said, what's the main reason you will DNF a book? Do you want to know what the landslide winner was? It was like 86%
What?
bad editing.
Oh,
If people don't, if authors don't think that readers notice bad editing, they're nuts.
plot holes. Big, giant, driving 72 semis wide plot holes.
Uh-huh.
And, and it's interesting because, I'm a critical reviewer, which, you and
Mhm.
Chris know. Like, Becky reads my book,
Mhm.
we're going to
And
get
that's fine.
critical review. And sometimes when people read a book, and I've read the book, and I'm like, I that book had these giant, giant plot holes. Like grown ass men 6 feet wide could drive through. And like nobody else is mentioning it. Like what? But then
When
somebody will
I
catch it and I'll be like, oh good, thank you. It wasn't just me.
Well, one of the things I like to do, and I have a group of what I call my super readers that are beta readers, and they get stuff when it goes to my editor. And they pretty much know I'm not looking for them to add commas if they want to, they can, doesn't bother me. But what I'm really looking for is continuity, plot holes. Did you like the character? Did you like the plot? Did it work for you? How did you know? And that's what I want. And I carved them out specifically, excuse me, and invited them to join because I knew they wouldn't blow smoke up my butt.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm looking for. There are plenty. I have plenty of people that'll do that. I wanted people that would say, "I really don't like this guy," or "No, that didn't work for me." Because that has a lot. That gives me the kind of feedback I need and to make it better. And that's really truly what I'm always striving to do. I mean, if I go back and I look at the Wayward Mates, there are different ways I would write those books now than I did then, but they're good. They're still good. But what I write now, the, I write them better. I write better than I did then. I've honed my craft. I've worked on it. When I hear young authors saying, I can't afford an editor, so I'm just gonna, my great Aunt Mary, who taught high school, back in the age of dinosaurs, is gonna be my editor. It's like, yeah, no. And then they can't understand why they can't sell the book and they can't and one of them will say, it's just everybody's DNFing it. And I said, then why aren't you looking at that?
Yeah.
What are they saying to you? Why aren't they looking at it? Well, they're just being mean. No, that's not. I don't think readers are inherently mean. Do I think there are some people who like to go through and trash somebody's novel just to do it? Sure. But you know what? They need to live with themselves. I don't have to. But I don't think people are inherently, readers are inherently, they want to like your book. They want to find something in it that they can identify with, that they can hang on to, that means something to them. Um, so no, I don't think they DNF stuff and return stuff just to be mean.
I don't think readers inherently are mean either. I think readers,
Mhm.
we're in it for the love of the story, however that
Exactly.
story plays out, but it has to be a well written story, a thought out story with a character arc or a plot
And
that makes sense.
well, you have to have engaging characters. There are two ways, in my opinion, to write or to read. You either like plot driven pieces where the characters serve the plot, or you read character driven pieces where the plot serves the characters. I write character driven. If you cannot engage me in your characters in the first two chapters, I am done. I am that way if I don't watch much television. So when I do, if I pull something up and I go, I don't like these people, I'm done. I'm just, it's Chris and I laugh. We watch, there's a couple of things on HGTV I like. There's a couple of things on Food Network we like. And then we like Numbers, Midsummer Murders, Vera. I mean, stuff that's been on forever because they're well done. And the plots are engaging and the characters are engaging. And it's just, I'm not going to waste my time watching or reading that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just not. And I'm like you. There are things I've started to read that everybody's like, this is the best book ever, or this is the best series ever. And I start and I think, yeah, no, I'm done here.
Yeah.
I just it isn't my thing.
One of these things is not like the other.
And there's times that I think, what am I? And I've gone back a couple of times. I've like tried a different. Okay, well, maybe I was just in a bad place at that time and tried it again and gone, nope, no, I really just don't like this. That's all. And that doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't make the people that like it a bad. It's
Yeah.
just different tastes. It's, what
Yeah.
you want to read. And so I have a lot of fun with that.
Well, and I'm inherently just realizing I'm a mood reader. And if my mood is as such that I am, dark and grumpy, then a light, funny rom com is not going to hit for me at that
Yeah,
time. I need a broody hero or an over the top possessive hero, to bring me the joy, not the laugh.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I think you read what you're in the mood to read, and you don't have to be. I remember people would always ask me about what's your musical taste, and if you heard my what I subscribe to Pandora, the music system, and you can make up lists, your own song list. If you listen to what I call my driving songs, you think, good God, this woman there's something seriously wrong with her. Because there is everything from Shakira to Gordon Lightfoot, you know, over to Bon Jovi and then down to Clannad. I mean, it's just like all over the place. But it's what I like listening to, you
Yeah.
know. And people say, well, do you listen to music? I don't listen to music a lot when I write, because if it's like something I really like, I'll get hung up in the music. And not just if it's because first I thought, well, maybe if I listen to instrumental music. Well, no, I get caught up in the instrumental part. So I don't do a lot of that. I mean, I laugh because Chris and I work in the same room, and we'll go for hours not say a word to each other. And people are like, isn't that weird? It's like, no, I mean, no, it's normal to us. I may ask her, do you remember that? I'm terrible about characters, and I'll say, what was the guy's name in the so and so novel? And she either knows it off the top of her head, which is really annoying, or she has to go look it up for me. But it allows me to just put like a triple X somewhere and keep writing. Then when she comes up with the name, I can go search for triple X and insert the name there. So
Yeah.
it's really a lot of fun, and the dogs all stay with us. They all like to be in the same room. We have this whole house. We basically live in one room. It's where we spend most of our time.
I feel this. I feel this. And actually, I cannot wait for summer because I work a lot of summer out on the deck, um, you know,
Hmm.
outside in the sunshine, and the dogs sit with me. But I had an issue, like, I think it was last week when I was just getting over being sick and everything. And the dogs are like right there. And I'm like, they follow me everywhere. I can't turn around without a dog being right there.
Well, yeah, and that's because you're sick, sweetie. They're trying to take care of you. Now we have basset hounds, as most people know. And Bassets are a very pack-oriented breed. They're a very family-oriented breed. I used to tell people when I was breeding puppies, and they'd say, do I have to have more than one?" And it's like, no, the Bassets aren't breed specific like foxhounds. You don't mix foxhounds with other hounds. They don't like it. It's just foxhounds. Bassets are sort of you, the cat, and the goldfish. They don't really care. They just want a family unit that they can hang with. And when Chris and I were first getting to be friends, I'd gone up to Maryland to do a thing with readers. And I brought my dogs with me because we'd already started talking about the fact that we're both over 60, neither of us is involved. Why? And either I was at her house or she was at my house. Why are we living in two separate houses? This is stupid. We could combine expenses, which is what we did, and it's been great. But I brought my dogs up there to see if her dog could live with my dogs, how they'd get along. And I was really hurt. I pinched two nerves, and I ended up. In fact, that's the running joke because I went up for the weekend and never came home. I sold my house literally from Maryland, and but I sat there. But Chris finally said to me, "Why can't they all go out at once? They're so annoying. Two of them will go out, and then one will stay behind." And I said, "Do you realize where the one stays?" No. And I said, "Right next to me." They want to make sure mommy's okay. So two of them go out, one stays with mommy, then one would come in, the one with me would go back out, but they would rotate it so that I was never alone. And the first time Chris was sick, she got the same, it was the same, we're all going to be around the other mother and we're going to take care of her whether she likes it or not.
Yeah.
And so that feeling of every time you stop and the dogs run into the back of you, yes, it can be, but uh, most of the time it's because they think they're taking care of you.
Yeah.
So, that's our girls, is they're taking care of me. Or of Chris. They like to be close, they like to know what we're doing. If one of us goes off like to do something, then they'll wait to see if we're coming back to the workroom. And if not, then somebody gets up to go see where you've gone, because you can't possibly do anything alone in our house. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Not in our house. We cannot. I have to go to the bathroom with a group.
Yes, one of the things I used to ask people when they would talk to me about getting a basset hound puppy, I'd say to them, if you're in your house alone and you go to the bathroom, do you close the door? And if they said yes, I'd say this is not your breed. They will literally, if you close a bathroom door in a basset, they will howl. They will lay outside the door and sound like someone's stabbing them through the heart. because it's like, I'm not, oh my God. They're kind of drama queens too, a lot of them.
Well,
But it's just, I mean, we sit and laugh. I mean, when I'm stuck in a place and I want to spin stories with Chris, which is one of the valuable things she does for me, because she always knows what I'm writing. She's my alpha reader, so she reads things that everything I write on a day, she reads the next morning. So I'm constantly getting feedback and constantly getting stuff. And but when I get stuck, we go out for a ride. We take the girls, we all go out for a ride, we drive along the ocean, and we spin stories and come up with different ways to do things. And sometimes I'm stuck for names of things, and so we just have a lot of fun with that. But again, it's something we do, and the running joke is they all get up in the back of the car, and by the time we're out of the driveway, and we have just a normal driveway now, they're sound asleep. They don't really care where we're going or what we're doing, as long as they get to go with us. That's the point, is to be with you.
no, I get it. I get it. I get all of it. Um, okay, in the chat, you guys, I'm going to put a link. We are starting a new newsletter at Bookcase and Coffee, Buzzing About Romance, our blog, that is a bookish lifestyle blog. We're going to talk about book adjacent things. So if you're interested in hearing about thrifting books in a small town and tips and tricks to making a good cup of coffee, you might consider joining our new newsletter. It'll launch May 1st. I'm super excited about it. We've been watching some old media, like I rewatched Downton Abbey and the two different Downton Abbey movies, because there's some great romance stories in that
Mhm.
series. I'm a PBS fool. I love PBS stuff.
Yeah, we are too. PBS, Masterpiece, BritBox, Acorn. We don't watch a lot of American television.
No, I get that. I do get that. um so okay, what else do we have coming up for you? The 100th book will launch in May.
Uh-huh.
Anything
And
else
let me see.
exciting?
Well, there's always stuff exciting. Da, 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 da. Yeah, we have audiobooks. We're now doing box sets for audio, and we're having the narrators go back and read the bonus scenes. The great thing about that is you can buy a box set for 1 credit on Audible, so that's nice.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we're the next book that comes out is one of the Mafia books, and then the second Club South Side, and then the first of the Otter Cove books, which has, I will tell you, the most gorgeous, sexiest cover I've ever seen in my life. I've always had a couple of covers that were my favorites. And when Dar sent that to me, I literally just went,
The cover for Suspicious Mates.
yes, he is
It's
gorgeous.
a great
Oh,
cover.
I mean, I just went, okay, new favorite cover. It's just, it's Dar is just brilliant. I can't say enough good things about her. She laughs and tells me, she says, I used to have this nice little cover, book cover business on the side while I did other things, and now I have a waiting list of 3 months long, and it's because of you. And it's like, I know.
Is it a
Um,
polar bear? Is he a polar bear?
yes, he's a polar bear. So I've been doing research on polar bears. And there's also just all kinds of fun stuff. It's one of the small town shifter series. So and they're gonna cross over with the Mystic River guys. So it's a lot of fun. Um, but honestly, I had um an author that I really respect, and she said to me, have you been using the same artist since you went indie? And I said, yes. And she said, yeah, I can tell. She's really branded you. She said, it's not like her covers are one note. They're all very different, but I can still tell it's a Delta James cover before I get to your name. And I thought that was a great testament to Dar, that
That
she could do
is,
that.
I mean, yeah, your covers. And I love her use of light in your covers.
Me too.
It's
And
like
her use of light and shadow and saturated colors, and just and I feel like I can sort of brag on the covers because I didn't have anything to do with them. I just I No, seriously, I send her an email and I say, this is the title. This is what the guy looks like. Blah 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 blah. Here's where it's set. Have fun. And then she sends me back these amazing things. Just amazing. And so when people say to me, "Oh, that's a gorgeous cover," I'm like, "I know, isn't it?" And I don't mean to be like I'm bragging because I'm not. Because I don't. Yes, it's my book, but it's Star's cover.
Right.
She's the one who did it, and they're just. She just does it a great job. I got hooked on doing series logos. She laughs at me about that. So does my PA. They both just sort of roll their eyes. I love a good series logo because you can use it in a lot of ways before you're doing cover reveals,
Yeah.
and it's so much fun. You know.
Well, I really like the series logo for the Mystic River, the Shameless Mates. Like,
Uh huh.
I love that series logo. Like, it's
Uh
just
huh.
really pretty. I need it in a sticker. I need it like
I'll send you a copy.
I, send me
I'll
a
send you
copy,
one,
and
and you.
if you send me the art, we can make the
Yeah,
stickers and send them out to our Patreon members. So
I'd be happy to do that.
one of the things our Patreon we've started to do is at our $10 tier, we send out monthly swag packs and we invite authors. If they send us their artwork, we'll make the stickers so it's no cost to them. And then we
Yeah.
include them in our swag packs. And our Patreon members love it. They're like, "Ooh, this is for this author?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Okay, adding to my TBR." I'm like, "Yes."
Okay. I'll send you. I'll send you stuff. Anything of mine you see that you want, just holler. I'll send it to you.
I
It's no
know.
big deal.
Well, do you know, to this day, everyone still talks about Delta James swag. They're like, best swag, best swag. And your
I
pen,
try.
I
I
had
I try.
I had one of your red pens and I finally used all the ink out of it.
Well, okay. Resend me your address. I'll send you some more pens.
I was like,
Um, I
I'm so
I don't
sad.
like. My thing is, I hate cheap pens. I hate
Yeah,
cheap pens. I also don't like. I want swag that's practical. I know that sounds silly, but like coasters and cozies for things and bookmarks. I don't like stuff that it's funny to get at a conference, and I bet that 90% of it gets tossed away and never goes home. So I try to make fun things that people can use and can have out, and they know it's me and what I write, but none of their friends need to.
yeah.
Although I had a gal that I'd sent a couple of pins to, and she's like, "Okay, this is going to sound really dumb, but a lot of people in my office now want your pins. Can I buy some
You
pins from you?" And I'm like, "I'll just send them." But we do have really nice pins
do.
because I don't like cheap ass pins. I can't stand plastic crappy pins.
I cried when the ink ran out. I tried to put other ink in it. It didn't work right. I'm such a mess, Delta. I'm like, that
Well,
was one of my
just
favorite
resend me your
pens.
address so I have it and I'll send you some.
Okay,
I'd be happy to send you pins.
I
Becky,
love
that's not a
that.
problem.
I'm a fool for swag. We all know this. Like, I
Uh-huh.
still
Me too.
use I still use your cork coaster that you sent me, and I think I have a wine stopper
Huh?
from when you did
Tangled
the
vines?
tangled vines, which I understand why we had to change those covers, but I really liked those original covers.
I did too. I really did. But we again we tested it and they just sold better. It was like, okay. And again, like I say, it's covers are for readers,
I know.
you know.
I will say
I had a
I think my favorite in that series is got to be the full bodied one.
uh,
What are those? Those are delts, right? Like up on the top.
uh-huh,
Isn't that muscle?
uh-huh.
Hot damn! I kind of
Yeah,
want to lick those.
that's one of my favorite books. I had a really good time writing that book. I got tired. I never really described my heroines a lot because I want my readers to be able to put themselves in that pace. So if you know she's 5'2" and a petite blonde and wears a size 3, and you're 5'10" and wear a size 16, it's going to be hard for you to relate. So I leave that a little vague so you can kind of put yourself in there. And a couple of books before Full Body came out that had curvy or full figured or plus size, whatever you want to call it. And the women were always really angsty and I have to lose weight, my body. And I got really tired of that. And I thought, no, uh-uh. So yeah, Whitney's a little surprised he can just sort of toss her around because she's not a little girl, but she doesn't have a she's comfortable with who she is
She's
and
one of
how
my
she looks.
favorite, we call it real sized
Uh-huh.
heroines. She is one of
Uh-huh.
my favorite real sized heroines. Like, I often use her when someone's like, I need a book that's got, like real body rep. I'm always like, try Full Bodied by Delta James because there isn't inherent fat phobia in it. She owns who she is and what her body is. And you describe the soft
Uh-huh.
curves and the squishy stomach. And you do a
Hmm.
really great job of that.
Thank you.
And yes, that it's a favorite of mine. It's a favorite.
I put a book out. There's a Romance with Curves anthology out. And I put the start of a book that will come out in Club Southside, called The Rookie. And it is definitely, she's a very curvy heroine. And you're gonna love her. You're gonna love Pippa. She's sort of in your face and doesn't take shit from people.
Can't wait. Make sure you tell Chris to remind Becky. I will totally arc read that one for you, friend.
Yeah, it's just, like I said, I got tired of it's nice to see real sized women, but I'm tired of seeing real sized women who beat themselves up because I don't think that helps anybody, and it's like, okay. And then on the other hand, I go, well, you don't want people who are really small to feel left out either. So it's I'm like all over the place with that. But there were some books that called women fat, and it's like smut, and just used really derogatory words and terms, and made the woman, like I said, very angsty, very self-loathing, and he had to build her up, and that wasn't Whitney. She was perfectly fine with who she was. She thought it was kind of fun that he could pick her up and toss her over his shoulder. But that was how she thought. It was like, wow, isn't this cool? You know,
She claimed her thighs. She liked her hips. She talks about her
yeah,
butt.
yeah,
And it's a great read. It is a great read.
thank you.
I actually think that Tangled Vines is probably my favorite of your series. And I say this as everybody who's part of our community knows, I'm not a huge PNR reader,
I know that
but I read
it
Delta
was
James.
it was I think for most people my PNR is easier to read. I get it to people all the time. I don't like PNR. I like your books, but I don't like other people's.
Yes.
Um, it because it's more focused on the characters and the fact that they're a shifter or a witch, or with Anne Boleyn, she'd come from the past. That's just a part of who they are. It's not the whole thing. It's not the whole enchilada. Sometimes I read PNR books and I think, gosh, I should make my people more. And then I think, no, that's not what I read. I think people enjoy them because even though they're a shifter or they can do magical things, you still feel like you could be with them. You could be around them. You could be friends with them.
Well,
It wouldn't be a barrier.
I don't I think what I like about yours is I can read the first book and I understand the lore. Like, I
Uh-huh.
understand how things work, and I don't feel that you make it overly complicated because I am not an
Yeah.
overly complicated person. And you make it palatable, digestible. Like, I can get it and I don't have to extend a ton of like thought process to get there. Like, XYZ must happen for in order for them to shift. I can't do all that. I just, especially if I'm in love with a character and the next thing I know, they're a cat. Wait, what happened? What did I miss? I forget. Um, but I like yours because it's really kind of laid out, and then it's the same, and it moves
Yeah.
to the
I
next,
try
and
to
it's the
build a
same.
world and then stay within that world. I try to really stay what's inherent in that world and how does that work. Um, and that's one thing Chris is really good on. I laughingly call Chris my continuity Nazi, but she does. I mean, she'll say, you can't do that. Well, sure I can. No, you can't because over here you did this. And yes, maybe it's a different series and it doesn't actually relate to that. But if I have wolves do one thing in one series, I need to have them do that in all my series, That it needs to be consistent.
Yeah.
When Felicity Brandon and I were writing a series together, when we were coming to the last two books, I had Chris go back and read through the books and pull out all the things we hadn't resolved yet, so that by the time we got to that final book, we would have answered all the questions and resolved everything for everybody. And Felicity was like, "Does she? Can you rent her out? Because I could use that in my other series. That's really nice." But we just had bullet points, so we could hit those things and get them resolved, and then take them out. I think readers don't like when you don't pay attention to things. They just don't.
No.
It comes across as you don't really give a damn. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to read somebody's books who doesn't give a damn.
Yeah. I want you to care. I want you to take,
Okay.
okay, so this leads me to another question. I know that you have a favorite book, but do you have an all-time favorite one of your characters? I mean, it's 100 books, Delta. Is there a character that is always number one in your heart?
Um,
Is that Chris
it,
telling
it,
you what to answer?
she says you better do New Orleans, which would be Jean Michel. Gaultier. And yes, Jean Michel is one of my favorite characters because he's so freaking over the top. And yet he's so wonderful. And there's a part of him that is all male alpha wolf and can rip your throat out. And there's another part of him that just adores his wife. I mean, he just absolutely dotes on her. And I really love the character of Gareth from the Alpha Lord series. I am a huge Robert Fitzwallace fan from the Mercenary Masters. I love him. I love Noah from the Western. I usually have like a favorite in a series, because I love Noah from the Wild Mustang security firm. And in fact, I've started doing a character update once a month in my newsletter. And this month I did Zara, and that's Noah's wife. And I did their I did a scene for them because they've always been so fun and so vibrant, and but like I love Robert Fitzwallace um what do you call from Mercenary Masters because he's he's so over the top, but yet he still loves JJ and supports JJ. She does things he doesn't want her to do. He gets annoyed with her. And he meets her because she calls herself a social activist, and she's going into like places in the Sudan and places where women have been kidnapped and getting them out and risking her life. She's got a whole place set up for these women to reclaim their lives, and she's got this whole system. But she says, but then that doesn't really pay very well. So she opens this lifestyle club and charges a fortune for that, and then blackmails some of the hoity-toity members to get the money she needs to do this other work. So, like, and I just love them as a couple. There's a byplay between them
Yeah.
that I really enjoy.
I know that Jean Michel, our community member, Nikki, who she couldn't watch tonight, she promised to watch on the replay tomorrow afternoon. Uh, Jean Michel is like her all-time favorite hero. She
Yep.
loves him. She like will say something random to me in conversation, be like, "Yeah, like Jean Michel from Delta James." I'm like, got it, sister. I know.
He is he was such a fun character because he was supposed to be a side character in one book. One book. And I had it all set up that he was going to pick this girl that had had a really tragic past and all this. And then he wouldn't shut up. And he wanted his own book. And not only that, he didn't want her. He wanted this girl over here. And finally, I'm like, dude, I don't have a backstory for her. And he's like, well, you're a writer, so write her one. What's the problem? I don't see the problem. That's right. And I think I've told this story before, but it's a fun story. I had a reader who wrote me and said she and her husband had gotten married, and they had decided they could either take a big fancy honeymoon or they could be adults and buy a house. She said, so we were adults and we bought a house. He said, you sound like you know New Orleans. And I do. I love New Orleans, one of my favorite cities in the world. And she said, where would it be fun for like a long weekend? I said, oh my God, yes. And she said, tell us places we can go that aren't touristy, that are a little. So I did. I literally sent her this, and I sent her links to their websites and everything. And so she did, and she was on this riverboat cruise, and they tour the river plantations up and down the Mississippi. And so they're on this tour boat, and the gal's giving her spiel, and she's sitting next to her husband. She's like, "Oh my God, that's Riv de Loup." And he goes, "What?" And she goes, "That's Riv de Loup." the tour guide says, "No, ma'am, that's the so and so plantation." She goes, "Oh, I'm sure it is, but I'm sure that's the plantation that she based Rive de Lip on." She says, "I'm sitting at the back of the boat. At the other side of the boat, this woman stands up and goes, 'You read Delta James?'" And she goes, "Yeah." And she goes, "Do you think that's Rive de Lip?" She goes, "Well, sure. Look, pavilion, and there's the," and she's like describing all this stuff. The tour boat stops and they back up. And the tour guide goes, "You're sure of that?" And she goes, "Well, I mean, I think so. It sounds like," and she goes, "Oh, wait, it's online. I'll ask her." So I get this note that says, "Did you base ripped up on it?" And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, "Oh, good. I'll talk to you later." And apparently they all had this. Then the tour guide's like, "Okay, ladies, we want to know the story." So they told the story. It was just great fun. And he's just one of those characters. And when I did the children, the Fated Legacy series, I mentioned this is like, no, 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 it was in I take that back. It was in Fated, was in the vampire book, that he was killed. Now it's 125 years later. I don't want to tell you the onslaught from readers I had about killing him. And I'm like, he's not immortal. It's 125 years later. No! So I figured out a way to bring him back and did. And they were all and I had just as many, like, yes, he was very happy. He wants you to know he appreciates that a lot.
He's really
Um,
grateful
so
you brought him back to life 150 years later.
it's just like, oh, Lord God, it's just, to me, that's always fun. And I killed a character in a book in The Scoundrel. She wasn't in there very long, but I needed it to move the story forward. And I had people, "Why did you kill her? You weren't supposed to get attached to her that fast." And sometimes Chris will be reading a book, like with Kira and Scott in the Mystic River Shifters book, and in their book was Restless Fate. She said, "You do know they're going to want this." I said, "No, they're just side characters. Maybe they'll get a novella sometime." She's like, "Yeah, no, they're going to want these people and a novel." And we were meeting with Renee the next couple of days, and Renee, that's first she goes, "So when are we going to get the Kieran Scott novel?" And I'm like, "Well, I wasn't really planning to write one." She said, "Well, then you need to change your plans." So I mean, but that's why, I mean, I always say to readers, reach out. If you email me, I will email you back. If you contact me on Facebook, I will message you back, and it is not Chris or Renee or anybody else. It's me. So, but I have really interesting discussions with readers all the time. I don't know how many readers I've met that they said, "Oh, I'm here in Florida. We're kind of close to you guys. If I could just get a book signed," it's like, "Well, let's meet for lunch instead." And so we go have lunch with people. And we just have a really good time. I enjoy that.
Love
So
that.
if
You
you're ever in Florida,
are
let me know.
you are absolutely one of the most approachable authors that we have ever had the privilege of chatting with. And that's why when Leah was like, "Do you have a doc for tonight? Do you need me to do anything?" And I'm like, "No, it's Delta. We haven't talked in like 6 months. We're going to catch up and it's going to be delightful." And Leah's
But
like,
we got stuff to do.
"Okay." She's like,
Yeah.
Now, look, we are an hour in and we have not had something to talk about."
Yeah, that's when I did a podcast with two guys in England, when we got off the podcast, they said, "God, you're really fun to talk to. This Can we have you back?" And I'm like, "Sure." And then one of the guys says, "I don't think you get it. We have scripts, we send people questions so they can be prepared." And he said, "And there's all these dead air, and we worry about that." And he goes, "There wasn't any with you." I said, "Yeah, I know. I'm kind of obnoxious that way." But
Um,
I enjoy it. I think it's a way to it's a different way to reach out to readers. It's like when I do a reading once a month in the pack, the readings aren't an hour long. The readings take maybe 10 minutes. But we're always on for an hour or an hour and a half because people are shooting me questions in the chat session, and it's fun. I have a really good time with that. Chris will tell you when I do something like this, especially when I can be with readers, either in a chat or even better at a writing conference, I'm like higher than a kite. It's my crack cocaine.
yeah.
I really, really have fun.
Just so you know, some of our community members are in Florida and I have comments in the chat that said, you might regret telling me that you're in Florida. Carolina wants
Uh-uh.
details. Um, Carolina's
I'm
like,
on the
Amanda and I
Treasure
will take
Coast.
Delta to lunch.
I am on the Treasure Coast. We would love to see people. Right now our house is undergoing. We had to have massive plumbing work done. Don't even get me
I
started.
saw like
Uh,
through your cement foundation, your
oh, oh
tile.
yeah, oh
Like,
yeah, yeah. It's been a nightmare. It's just been a nightmare. Um, but it's getting better. So I wouldn't have people over to the house right now because, frankly, there's not any place to sit. But one of the things we do is we've had people come and meet us at the house and have lunch at the house. And what I always say to people, if you want to do that, that's great. But understand, we have four basset hounds. And if you sit on the couch, one of them will get in your lap.
yeah.
Ava, is the smallest, she isn't the youngest anymore, but she's the smallest. If somebody sits on the couch, she's like, oh, a lap. And she literally will do anything to get in your lap and sit there. And I had somebody who was sitting holding her, and they were taking her ears and doing this with them. She finally said, they're kind of like worry beads. I said, yes, very much so. But yeah, we love to meet people for lunch and go and sit and have a chat and laugh and talk. And that's just for me, like I said, that's a big, huge perk for me. I
Yeah.
really enjoy that. And I know for some people it's hard and they're introverts and doing that is really difficult. And I don't have any problem with that. But that's on me. I'm not an introvert and I enjoy it and we have a lot of fun. So um, it's so no, I actually won't regret it.
So
Not at all.
Amanda said to tell you she's in Port St. Lucie. So
She's 35 minutes from me. I'm in Vero Beach.
there we go. I will be so jealous, ladies. I will need lots of pictures because right now I just get to hang out with Delta virtually. But someday,
Well, if you
someday we will
ever,
hang soon.
I was gonna say, if you ever want to come down, like bring your family to like Walt Disney World, and that's only 2 hours from us, and you could stay here.
There we
We'd
go.
put you up. There you
I
go.
That would not make me sad. That would be great. Michael would be like, "What are we doing?" I'm like, "We're gonna go hang out with Delta and Chris." He'll be like,
He'd be
"Okay,
fine. That's
okay."
like me.
He's, you know what? I'm so blessed. He's such a great guy and such a good sport. I mean, all of this is possible because of him. Um okay, what else? Does anybody have any questions in the chat before we let Delta go and like realize that we need to do this more often than once a year? We need to hang out more.
Well,
Um
you know me. I just need a couple of minutes to make sure I got everything set
well,
up, and then I'm good.
I was talking to Nikki today and she goes, Delta moved, so she won't be in the Dairy Queen parking lot anymore. And I
Yes,
was like, I know. That's one of my
we
best
have
memories. I love that. I still giggle about that.
people laugh and they were like, "Is that a shtick?" No, we're literally in the Dairy Queen parking lot because it's where we get the best internet.
It's where you get the best internet. Um, oh, Susie wanted to know when you're reading for fun for yourself, who do you like to read?
Um, that kind of depends. I was a huge Robert Ludlum fan. I would get a new Robert Ludlum novel, sit down and read until I was done. Wouldn't go to sleep. Partly because he always had intelligent female characters. They didn't need to be saved. I'm a huge Dan Brown fan. New Dan Brown novel comes out, I'm reading it. I love it. I love Lexi Blake. I think she does really interesting things with her characters. Um, I love
She also loves New Orleans and
yes.
Texas.
I also, so I don't read a lot of other romance
That's
novels.
okay.
I have to tell you, I don't want to be too influenced by them.
Well,
Um,
we just did a series of quick shots on the Perfect Gentleman series that
mhm,
Shayla Black and Lexi Blake wrote. And a lot of people
uh-huh,
they were like that was their first exposure to Lexi Blake and I'm like, "Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa." But I can see where especially with the type of romance you write with the sex clubs and the alphas
uh-huh,
and stuff like that, that reading those kinds of books could start to influence um,
yeah.
your writing. And then it might take something away from who you are as a writer a little bit too.
Well, and part of it is I don't like I don't like authors where the women are stupid or need to be saved. I sometimes have to remind myself, oh yes, the alpha needs to be a hero at this point because so far I've made the woman the hero. But I really enjoy that, and I part of my thing is I really, and then I get from people the feedback I get is I empower women. I make them look at themselves differently. I had a reader who said, I know you say you just write books to entertain, but you need to understand my father died last year. My husband left me. My oldest son is gone to prison. She'd had this horrible life for a year. And she said it looked like it just seemed that every time I made a decision, it was the wrong one. Didn't matter what it was about, it was the wrong one. She said, so I started stopping and saying to myself, what would Skylar do? Skylar is the heroine of Brought to Heel on the Wayward Maid series. What would Skylar do? And then I would do that and it would be okay. And I said to her, you do realize that's just your subconscious. It's slowing you down. It's making you think that's your subconscious. That's not, she was like, no, no, it was Skylar. It's like, okay, that makes you happy.
It was
But I get that. I had a reader in England whose daughter's husband left her and took all their money. And it was just this horrible thing. And she discovered, and she was like, I need to read something. And her mom said, well, you can read my Kindle. And she saw one of my, she's like, Mom. And she goes, you don't like it? It's your own Kindle. This is what I want to read. So she said, oh, fine. And she started to read. And she said, your books changed the course of her life. She picked herself up. She did what she needed to do and she got on with it. She didn't make a big deal. She just got on and said, nobody gets to beat me up emotionally. And so if my books, and I get emails from people that say my book changed their life or they just, and I'm glad it did. Don't misunderstand me. And if I have reached you in that way, I am humbled to have been part of your journey. But I'm always sort of like, no, I just write steamy romance novels. But apparently, for a lot of people, I write characters they can identify with and that they can take strength with. And that's part of what I do on the Wayward Pack. I put up memes that have nothing to do with books. They're just something that I read and I thought, ooh, I like that. But I try to make sure they never belittle people or try to make people feel bad or tell them they're wrong. There's enough of that out there, other places. I try to make that a really, really positive place.
yeah.
There's a bunch of authors that are on the pack, and the questions I get from them are, how do you make it that engaging? Well, I put stuff out there for people to talk about. And, and how do you find these things? I'm in my timeline. I see something I like and think, that's interesting. And and things that have helped me, I haven't had this perfect life and it hasn't always been wonderful and amazing. Chris, we were both a little overwhelmed last week with the whole house thing. And she said, I think I need to remind you of something. And I said, what's that? And I said, did I want to put my fist through the guy's face? And she said, no, I think you remember that. She said, what I think I need to remind you is that, she said, at least for me, this is the best time of my life. It's the best time I've ever had, ever, ever. All the stuff that I went through to get here, this is the payoff. So I am not going to let some pipsqueak get the best of me. I'm going to enjoy. And I thought, and that literally flipped the switch for both of us. It's like, yep, it's a pain. Yep, I'm tired of it. But you know what? She's right. This is the best time of my life.
Yeah.
This is my second chapter. I created it, and it's amazing. And the thing I want other women to hear is you can do it too. I'm not some special perfect person. None of that. I made plenty of mistakes. I've done plenty of stupid things. But you can make it better. If you decide I don't like where I am, you can change it.
Yeah.
And you're the only one who can.
I love that.
People might not
I love that.
like it, but you can do that. You can change your life. Um, and that's what I did.
Yeah. I love that. People are always like, gosh, you spend so much time with your books and talking about your books and working on your books and your podcast. And I'm like, yeah, but I love it. I love it.
Uh-huh.
It's a privilege. I get to do this. I get to talk and amazing people and I have this community And someone said, "Oh, but isn't it hard?" And I'm like, "No, because when I am like ready to throw in the towel and quit, someone in the community will say, "Hey, no, you still have
Yeah.
value. You are still." And I love that. This last year's been really rough and I wasn't sure what I was doing and where I was going, and then somebody shared something and they said, "If you do it, I'm there with you 100%." And I'm like, "Wow. Wow, I'm not even sure my spouse is 100%." I mean, he is, but sometimes he looks at me
Yeah,
and goes, "Becky?"
I think that, I think that's the greatest gift as women, as people who deal in, I don't want to say the arts because I don't think what I write is art. Um, but
It
we
is.
can lift people up.
It
We
is.
can lift people up. I've done a couple of presentations for writers, and the first one I did on the fly. A friend of mine happened to be the program director. We were meeting Saturday morning at 10, and the person she had to do the program called Friday night at 8:30 and said, "I'm not coming." She was like, "What?" And so she said, "Can you do this for me? Because I need somebody and I know you." And I said, "Well, I don't have like, excuse me, presentation, but I can do something." And she said, "Yeah, that's fine. I don't care. I just need somebody to fill some space." I said, "Okay." So I walked in and I said, of all of you here, before I get started, how many of you think of what we do as your art or your baby? Raise your hand. And they raised their hands, and I said, "Would you all stand up?" And they did. And they got this very lofty, noble look on their faces. And I said, "Yeah, y'all can leave because I got nothing for you." And I turned around, and they all sort of went, What?" And I'm like, "Well," and one guy said, "Well, can we stand?" I said, "Oh, of course you can. I'm just not going to talk to you in a language you understand. I don't write art. I don't." She said, "Well, then what do you do?" I said, "It's my work product. It's a fun work product and I love it, but I don't think it makes me better than anybody else. You know, it's creative and I'm
But you're a
extraordinarily lucky."
skilled storytelling, and storytelling is an art form. And if
Okay.
you give an art form, you are therefore an artist.
No, I'm just a storyteller. I'll go with you to storyteller because that I inherited from my dad. My dad was a great storyteller. I inherited that from him. Um, I just have a really good time, and I'm really lucky that people like my books and they continue to buy my books. I'm lucky that they interact with me, that they follow me, and they let me be a part of their journey. I think that's all really great. When people usually ask me, "What's my favorite book of all time?" I tell them quite honestly, it's Misty of Chincoteague by Marguerite Hindley, and they sort of look at me like I've grown a second head. And I said, "My mother used that book to teach me to read when I was 3." And so that book taught me to love reading, to love horses, and to love wild things. So yeah, that's my favorite book. By the time I got to school and they were trying to teach C Spot Run, I was like, seriously? Can't we read something interesting like Walter Farley? I read from the time I read in first grade when they first start teaching you to read. I was reading like at a 12th grade level
Yeah.
as a 6-year old. But I loved it because and I learned to read. My mom taught me because I wanted to learn, and she thought, well, okay, and so she did. She didn't know what she was doing. She wasn't a teacher. She wasn't trained, but she sat and read this book with me, and pointed it out, and that's how I learned to read. So it's a great. I recommend it highly to read to kids because it's a wonderful story.
I love
But
that.
yeah, it's.
The chat is saying we all know the truth. You're a talented artist. So
Oh, thank you very much. I do appreciate that.
we
I don't agree with
Delta, pick a number between 1 and 9.
7.
7. That is gonna be Melody. Melody, if you email me the bees at bookcase and coffee. Oops. What's the name of our website? Bookcaseandcoffee.com. I will send you some buzzing about romance swag. Um, Delta, thank you so much for catching up with us tonight.
Thanks for having me anytime. I always have a good time.
It's always a delight to get to chat with you. Thank you everybody to hanging out and watching with us. I will be back on April the 4th with Carolina, and we are interviewing author Carrie Elks and talking small town romances. So We'll be back then. If not, you can find our Sunday episodes wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
Delta.